that most of you are regulars and have been to this before, but if you haven't, this is AgileTO. And generally speaking, this is somewhere where we bring speakers, we have people mingle in our community. First time I went there was, I don't know, like 2018, I want to say. So for me, it was formative in getting into the Agile community and meeting people, and I'm assuming it might be the same for you. So thanks for coming today. Aside from that, actually, maybe we'll leave room at the end to talk about what other events are happening in the community that we can all go to. But for now, I have Victor SZOLTYSEK for Innovation at Speed, ChatGPT and AI transformation in Agile. And just to clarify what that actually means, and I have a script. Recently, AI has been the hottest topic in technology. NFTs are so done. We're also seeing artificial intelligence and machine learning being leveraged to supercharge Agile workflows. Tonight, you'll get an overview of the current AI landscape and its impact on development. Then Victor will delve into why AI is a game changer we need to embrace in our Agile life cycles using some real-world examples. Victor will also share some of the challenges associated with implementing AI tools like ChatGPT within corporate environments, as we're currently standing in IGN. And in keeping with the AgileTO tradition, Victor will also conduct an interactive exercise with us. He'll be looking at ways we can use ChatGPT to support an Agile workflow. So I'm really excited about what the heck that looks like hands-on. Yeah, so actually, I don't know, who do I pass it to?
May I just quickly? I'm going to speak loud enough to actually. You want to be logistic?
We're recording.
The baby one.
Oh, shoot. Why am I getting the baby one? That's fine. Okay. Anyhow, a little bit, welcome to IGN Financial. As a good tradition, we've been hosting this for the last, I think, 4 or 5 sessions so far. A little bit logistic, bathroom, females on the right side, males all gender on the right side. So one thing is important after the session is over, please mingle a little bit. You need to go downstairs, otherwise you will not be able to get out of the building. And we have to be one of you guys, be one of us to open the door downstairs. Otherwise you have to sleep here tomorrow. I don't want to see you guys sleeping here tomorrow. With that said, I would like to do some acknowledgement as part of the conference. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we walk upon the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Niue First Nation, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Wendat, and the Huron Indigenous people. The Greater Toronto area is now home to many First Nation meet with these people, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for coming. Show of hands, like who here has a ChatGPT account? Oh, everyone. Okay. 40% is they're brewing. There's a study done by MIT for any type of job with writing with languages, especially Agile. 40% is not unrealistic for the benefit you get out of LLMs. I did a talk about using LLMs for Java, so long language models like ChatGPT. And I realized that it's great for coding, Copilot, I don't know who uses here for coding, but for things like Agile, when you're creating stories, you're creating, you're replying to clients, you're writing emails, you're doing decks, it's even harder than coding. It's better than Copilot. It's massive. It just takes a little bit of learning. And the way I would compare it, I see a lot of pushback for ChatGPT for some reason. It's not just another tool. It seems like some people use it. Who uses it on a daily basis? Show of hands. I'm gonna sell you guys on that every day, and I'm not affiliated with OpenAI in any way. I just love this tool, and it's gotten to the point for me for ChatGPT when it goes down, it's like the internet's down. I don't know what to do. But I will say that ignoring LLMs is the same as ignoring the internet. If you're not using it, it's what the internet was back in the day, where when it came out, it wasn't so obvious of what the benefit is. I remember, I know I feel old, but I remember when the internet was coming out and trying to explain it to people and the pushback you get of, why would I want the internet? I could just go to the library. And I see that same pushback with LLMs of, why would I want LLMs? I could just go into Google, I could do it myself. It's like the internet, it's like the PC, it's like the smartphone. It's not just another tool. And it isn't, there's this pushback of, oh, it's gonna do my job for me. No, it's an accelerator. It's like the internet, it's like the bike, etc. It makes you better on the creative stuff. It takes care of the tedious stuff. And I know that it's a changer because of all the pushback that I'm seeing from companies. It's not just in IT. Like I see resistance in IT. I see resistance in the legal industry. And when I did some research around this, it's like every time there's a completely new game changer thing to the industry, you see some people just pushing back massively. And when I did some research, there's actually this thing called the red traffic law. When cars first came out, a game changer, like people used to ride horses, there was laws instituted around, and I'm seeing this kind of with ChatGPT, but when cars first came out in the UK, people mandated that somebody walk in front of a in front of a car with a flag and like wave just in case they didn't hit anyone. And I'm seeing that with ChatGPT today. And if you guys have it banned in your company, then I will show you some alternatives or workarounds, so to speak. How to unlock this tool? It is a little bit like smartphones or internet. It's not obvious at first. I remember when I first played around with it, it's not clear. I remember when I first logged in, I was like, oh, I could do a search. It's kind of like Google, it's a little bit smarter. Didn't click right away. And I've summarized things kind of into 3 ways, like the 3 most effective ways that I've seen of selling people on the vision of LLMs, ChatGPT, Google Bard, etc. Is number 1, like understanding the use cases, and I pretty much just say like anything with language, like if written French, English, Farsi, Python, obscure Jira scripting, any type of texting, any type of thing that's based in text format. I think the other day I needed to create a calendar in iCal format. I didn't need the format, just spit it out, like here's my iCal file. The second thing, it's what you guys may have heard is like the prompting. There's a skill to it. There's some very serious limitations around memory, around what to ask, around it's not how you use Google with one-off searches. It's not like how you code where things have to be precise. It's very different, and there's a skill involvement. I don't think it's that high, but when you put the time in, you could do a lot. And then number 3, there's the tooling side. It's not just the LLMs. Now with ChatGPT, there's other alternatives. Some of them might actually be unlocked within your corporation. Some of them you can run on your iPad and hotspot. There's image generation, there's OCR recognition, there's a ton of awesome tools out there, even integrated to ChatGPT, that I'd look into. The use cases, I mean, I generally tell people like anything with language, like you get an email, you get a text, you get anything that you see with written language, you can just start asking ChatGPT, like here's my text, tell me what can I do with this? Here's my content, here's my email, what can you do? Here are my rough notes. Anything with language is where I start getting people thinking about it. Client engagements, like who hasn't gotten a nasty email from a client of like, this is behind. Your gut feeling is to either like react in like a passive aggressive way, or you spend like half your day trying to make the perfect like CEO acceptable email. Just have it do it for you. Like, this is what I want it nice, reply to this email. And I will be kind of giving really quick prompt ideas too. So this case, like, I don't know, like a client, like here's my message, and I probably in the prompt say like, here's the message I got from the client, and strip out, if your corporation doesn't allow it, strip out the client's sensitive information, but just generic, like this is a nasty email I got, like reply to it. Meeting preparation, like any type of client engagements. I know there's a little bit of a fake it till you make it component to IT sometimes. Who hasn't been like put in a meeting of like in front of a client, like, oh, you're the expert on this. I recommend using like, give it your agenda, give it some background of who's coming to the meeting, and then just ask it like, give me some smart questions so I look smart, like I know what I'm doing. That's great. Anything with content generation, like I think that general, like mass consumption content, like blog posting is dead, Stack Overflow is dead, like just generic kind of easy, uncreative content of like, oh, I need a blog post comparing agile software development to the zombie apocalypse. It will create it for you, like pretty good, especially if you use ChatGPT 4, which I'll kind of go over a little bit. But any type of content generation, this deck was I heavily used ChatGPT, and it's not that it does it for me. I still spend a lot of time back and forth. It's like, okay, I want this format, here's my context, this is what I want to say. It let me focus on the creative things of what I want to say, and it did all the like, all right, like the punchiness, like the styling. It did a lot of the stuff for me. Yeah, and I used, my prompt is a little bigger, but like, yeah, I need to talk to a client about topic X, like just use it as your idea. Like start asking ChatGPT, it has memories, like have it create the content for you. It won't do everything, but it is in a way kind of like a junior copywriter. I don't know if anyone's used a copywriter before, where you give somebody your content and it's just rough, it's notes, and it's like, all right, fill in the blanks and write it and make it clean. Problem solving. Anytime I have a problem, and this doesn't have to be like technical, it's like if you're just stuck on anything, and I'll say it's not just in IT, it could be anything, like I don't know what to do in this situation. The database, the model that ChatGPT has behind the scenes, like it's everything. It's medicine, it's legal, it's therapy, like everything is there. And if you have a problem, I don't understand why people use Stack Overflow, and it doesn't surprise me that like it's the usage of Stack Overflow has massively tanked since ChatGPT came out. But anytime I have a problem, the responses that it'll give you are much better. Even like regular troubleshooting, like I don't know, I'm getting this error message, what do I do? Just put it in ChatGPT. Give it as much context as you want. It's much better than Google, much faster, much more context specific. General, like just solutioning, like if I'm starting, I've been doing a little bit more like greenfield and helping clients with like how do I like start this at the beginning? How do I create a solution for a project like starting up? That starting point of like, all right, just tell me where to start. Like here's the context. Where do I go for like a high level DevOps architecture? Like just tell me where to get started and give me the first pass. Like I still have to do a lot of work, but just that first pass, like it's a huge time saver. As opposed to what it used to be, is like you'd have to read a lot of books and double check and Google search and Stack Overflow. Everything's in one spot in exactly the format that you want. Scripting and coding, I will say that I'm seeing even non-technical people code more, because for the one-off scripts, I showed somebody the other day how we had this really complicated Excel problem of we needed, here's the input, here's the output. I didn't know how to do it. It was really, I don't know if anyone's here used advanced like Excel with the Power Query stuff, but it told me exactly what the script was for this person to write the Power Query. And the same with Jira. Like, I mean, everyone here uses Jira, like advanced querying. If you want to do any other like advanced, maybe a script that you want to run daily, like as a PM, you could probably start doing this stuff yourself. Just ask ChatGPT to create that for you, and then play around with it. You don't need developers as much for the one-off scripts, and it's super powerful for non-coders. Mastering prompting. This kind of what I've showed before is just like it's nice for the one-offs and the one-off queries. That's good, but like where you're gonna start seeing a lot of power is when you actually start like writing prompts in this concept of conversation, especially if you use the UI. So just like you have messages in iMessage or WhatsApp, you can have threads of conversation. So I will have 200 one for like client engagement X, one for a crazy in-law that I talked to Y, one for like parenting, like just different contexts, and it memorizes, it keeps a track of that memory, understands the context. And I do usually, if I'm working on something more complicated, like it is, you want to try to provide it as much context as possible. It's not like Google where you kind of want to have a one-liner, really simple, but I provide it like, where am I coming from? Who am I? What do I want? Like as many details as possible, just dump it. It doesn't have to be precise. You could have spelling mistakes. It doesn't have to be syntactically correct. Just dump it in there. So I usually start off, I start a new thread, I give it as much context, and yeah, provide, like, start new threads. And the big one that I've started doing is, I actually, like even for this talk, and it was much bigger, my original prompt for this talk must have been like 3 pages long. I just kind of opened up Word or a notepad, and just started writing and dumping my notes in. But like it's so atypical of what you see in other tools, right, in the past, where you got a one line or something. Yeah, this was my original ChatGPT prompt, but it was much longer. So I just kind of spent like an hour just putting in all my rough details and then submitting. And then the next thing I kind of do is like this iteration and refinement. You get a response back, but I iterate over it. Like I might not like it, so I'll just tell ChatGPT like, you know what, like in this paragraph you said X, go fix that. Maybe I don't like the tone you're using it for email generation. Like just say like, okay, I don't like this tone, you're being too nice. Maybe make it shorter, maybe make it longer, add some funny puns, add some humor, use the word synergies more often. Doesn't matter, but you go in and correct over it. Unpack. I actually use that one a lot just for the synergy, for like other like silly words of like, just put in blockchain somewhere in my email to this client. Once you start getting to a certain level, kind of at the intermediate advanced, you realize it actually has a memory. It's a little bit like an elephant, where if you're doing a lot of back and forth conversation, it will actually start forgetting from the top. So be careful and just understand that, where say you have a conversation, like some conversation you're having with a client, and you're posting in his response and then just saying reply to this message, and then posting in that response this message. Eventually you'll forget what you put in the top, and if you put in your name at the top, you'll forget your name. So just be aware. It's about the counter by tokens. It depends a little bit about the model that you're using, but it's about 5 pages, but it's also your input and your output. So if your output's really big every time, like it's stacking all the outputs. So what I like to do is, if I'm working on something as big as, like here's my big giant presentation, I won't have it redo the presentation every time. I might say something like, hey, let's work on the 3rd section, so just show me the 3rd section instead of like rewrite the entire deck. And then sometimes I've noticed where its memory gets super shoddy, and then I just redo an entire prompt and just tell it, all right, like, here's all the info again. So I do like to kind of save. I actually, like for the long prompts, I don't do it in ChatGPT directly. I'll do it in like Notepad, so it saves. There's been times where you're writing a prompt and then maybe like the connection dies out. Like, oh geez, like I gotta rewrite this prompt. So I have actually, for anything other than like one-liners, I actually just write in Notepad and it's saved. Another big shift is this understanding that it takes unstructured data. Like you can give it anything, it'll figure it out. It doesn't have to be syntactically correct, and it'll just blow up and say like missing colon, or I don't know what compilers say now, like when things aren't correct. But I've dumped complete random, unorganized notes of different languages, spelling mistakes, anything. Like you could say something like, here are my rough, unorganized notes from a meeting, just summarize them. Like, just this shift of like understanding that I could take any type of data and then probably understand it. It doesn't have to be correct, doesn't have to be, it works surprisingly well. And I remember this was one of the big cognitive, like one of the aha moments of like, oh wow, this is really powerful for me. and I realized that. So even like organization, yeah, it's like even this rough notes, it just works really well. The other big thing is like you could specify input, so this is what I said before, anything that's text-based, like if you want, I don't know, if you want a CSV file, it does do table formats too really well, that's super useful. So if you want something like in this case I did trunk-based development versus feature branching, I'll put in table format, give me all the pros and cons. So I do love it, like even for Agile, right? Like give the client the pros and cons of waterfall and Agile and like how fast, make some of the examples of who uses it, or the table output is super slick. And then if you wanted any other, pretty much any type of format that's text-based, CSV, HTML, ICAL, XML, any type of coding, any type of language, actually like the translation ability, like if anyone here has a side hustle of translating, like I recommend you find a different side hustle. Providing options. Sometimes I'm stuck, like I have content and I'm like, I don't know, I'm working on this deck, but I don't know what to do. Like I'll just ask ChatGPT, like I'm stuck, I don't know what to do, and give me options. So maybe you want to write an email to a client, you don't know what to tell ChatGPT, so I'll just ask it, like write an email to this email. Sorry, write an email to this reply. Give me 3 different options and vary them by, I think, assertive, casual, humorous, and usually I like to add passive aggressive and puns. And then even if I'm just stuck in general, like I'm not sure where to go next with this, tell me what to do. Like I just treat it almost like a person. Super powerful. Next thing, the tools. There's a lot of great functionality in ChatGPT and some of the other tools as well. Because anyone here use custom instructions? One person. Custom instructions is a setting in OpenAI they added a few months ago, and just think of it as a global setting. So it knows. I mean, this wouldn't be the prompt if you click on the bottom in the app or in the UI. There's this little feature called ChatGPT, and this is plus or not plus. But you could give it like global context that you wanted to remember forever. And I mean, at the very least, it's just like, oh, my name is Victor SZOLTYSEK, so that knows when I send emails to people, it doesn't say, cheers, insert name here. Like, just be careful if you're ever doing that. But this saves you from doing that. But you could also provide it with context of anything you wanted to know, so that like, if you're asking questions about software, and it knows you're a software developer, it's not gonna like talk to you like you're new to software. And then there's another dialogue, so there's 2 settings, there's personal information and desired response style. You could also kind of guide it into its default way of responding. So maybe you really like concise, maybe you really like humorous, maybe you want something else, but you have a global setting that you could always override, if this is how I want my messages to look. This used to be an issue, so it's important to know that the model, up until, actually they just changed this a month ago, but up until a month ago, both of the models, ChatGPT, the data was 3 years old. So if you asked it like, what was who won the Stanley Cup last year, like it wouldn't know. There's a gap, and I did find like in IT and software, you know, if I wanted like compare React versus Angular, it would have data from 3 years ago. There's a plugin available for Plus that lets you do real-time searches. It'll supplement its own data and just go out to Bing and search it for you. You do have to pay like the $20 version. But they did, for 4.0, if you're using the Plus version, it's April 2023, so it isn't really recent now. But if you're using the free version, it's still 2021, so the data is old. So you can't, you won't always get everything. But there's a workaround of this, which is the real-time search. Another workaround that I've seen is, I don't know, if you have like a press release that came out yesterday, just give it the press release, like here, like quote, here's my press release, summarize it for a client, email it in. So that's another workaround. So you gotta do that. Recent advancements, yeah, so just just be careful with the tech, like if you need the most up-to-date information, but the plugin's great. Other functionality that they just added with the new update a month ago, I don't know if it works for 3.5, but I recommend 4, is 2 big things. Is number one, you could give it an image. So an image or a PDF. So if you have like, hey, I have this ULA contract, I don't understand it, upload it to PDF and just have it summarize it for you. But what I'm more excited about is this image input. So you could give it an image and it won't just tell you what's in it. It won't just say like, this isn't like Apple Photos where it's a cat. Like it will have full context of what's going on. I've seen it done things like first of all, it'll do OCR. So if you have some scribbled notes, you could take a photo and just tell me in text what's on the photo. But even like, I don't know, I scripted out like, here's my rough sketch of a UI, create the CSS fonts for me. Because full understanding of the photo is super powerful. Image output is baked into ChatGPT. I used to use a product called Midjourney. They added DALL-E 3, that's the product, baked into ChatGPT. It just knows. If you say like, I want an image, it will just create it for you. Like, there's no plugin, it's I just want an image. I was working on a deck on retrospectives, so I just asked ChatGPT to create an expression of cell image, covered by Agile PowerPoint deck, 16:9 ratio, setting in an office, include yellow stickies on the board. You could be that precise, and I'll show you guys what I created. And actually for the company I work at, we were sending out a Christmas invite. So yeah, just like create cartoon style Christmas decorations, lots of fun, raffle logo, create an image for my Christmas party to send out. So this was the image for the retro deck. I will say the one thing that I created about this image, and it's gotten much better, the image generation gets a little bit fuzzy on text. It doesn't always nail it. But even in the 6 months that I've been using it, it's getting much better. And then this is like the Christmas party invite. Like this is 5 seconds of work, and you could iterate over it. I think I tried superheroes, I tried like photorealistic, any style you could think of it, like Van Gogh, black and white. I do coloring books, so I do. I don't even understand why people buy kids' books anymore, because anything I want, I can just say, write a kid's book on X, and create some black and white coloring book images for it, and just put it in and print it out. For learning, obviously you can cut and paste the text out, but there's this really cool button at the top when I try to kind of show people how I got to an answer. There's a share conversations button for people that don't even have a ChatGPT plugin, login, where you click on the button and it'll share the entire thread with somebody. I found that super useful for learning. The mobile app, does anyone here have the mobile app? Yeah, pretty recent, super solid, like one of the best apps that came out a few months ago. Just better integration. I think you could do shortcuts. You can do two-way voice chat, which is super slick, where for one-off things, I just have like a Siri alternative, where instead of using Siri, I click the button on the side and I just talk to it. And it sounds like, it doesn't sound like Siri or Alexa. It's super smooth, it recognizes it. And for like quick one-off questions of like, oh, I'm going to a meeting, like what are some quick, silly Agile metrics I could use? Like, you could do that. I do prefer the typing. But for the one-off questions, like, it's so good at recognizing text and it's so good at saying, like, it just sounds natural. Alternatives is does everyone here have ChatGPT blocked? Who here has ChatGPT blocked at their office? Everyone? Does anyone not have it blocked? I mean, the one workaround that I see a lot of people doing is that you just get a hotspot on my laptop, like personal laptop or iPad, and never use sensitive client information. I will say, like, even though ChatGPT, I never, if I'm doing on client stuff, I strip out anything sensitive, like names, contacts, etc. But 95% of the time, there's nothing sensitive about it. If I'm asking ChatGPT about, like, hey, my client is angry, like, there's nothing sensitive about it. Like, just write me a response. I don't have to give it the name. I don't have to give it the company. If there's nothing sensitive, don't, like, you can still use it. And I think some companies are being overly cautious with ChatGPT. Like you have access to email, you can put anything you want in an email. You have access to Google, you could, in theory, put anything you want into that Google search. It's the same with ChatGPT, and it's such a huge restriction. But I did want to go over some alternatives. Google Bard is the Google version. It's free, but out of the 190 countries that it supports, Canada's not one of them. And I think it's more of a Canadian politics thing, but I use VPN. It's my backup to, oh, ChatGPT's down. All right, VPN into the US and use Google Bard. The super cool stuff that I think everything is going towards is it has like integration. So with Gmail, like there's a plugin, checkmark Gmail, and it has access to a Gmail, where you don't have to do this old school search. You can just say like, just check my email and summarize the unread messages from today. Like it's full natural language ability into your email. And then Drive integration too. Like you could point it to a G drive and kind of just tell me what files I have and like summarize them for marketing. Has that full integration, super slick. If you guys, I mean, unless you guys are working out in the US, you probably won't have it. Bing AI is a nice little workaround. It's not as smart. I think it's OpenAI backend, but if you go into Bing and click the little chat button, it doesn't have threaded. It doesn't have the concept of threads. I think it limits you to 200 characters, and there seems like people think that it's meant for search, like that Bing AI is like, oh, it's like a natural language for searching. You don't have to use it for search. You can go into Bing AI and say like, craft an email response to X. Like it's not for search. And some companies still haven't locked down on this. So I'd look into this one. Yeah, so I mean, like you can still like, even though you think it's for search, you could still ask it to brainstorm ideas to generate code. Like it has all this ability, it's probably not locked down. Look into it. I'm starting to see this roll out. Anyone here have the MS Office Copilot? It is just OpenAI behind the scenes, but this is like the Microsoft Office integration with OpenAI at an enterprise level. So like once your company gets it, and I think it just went GA a month ago, but you need to have like 300 clients or more, you're kind of getting OpenAI, and you're getting like the checkmark security where you pay a lot of money to Microsoft, but at least the corporate guys will say, we trust Microsoft for whatever reason, but we don't trust OpenAI. Yeah, and Outlook integration. Like I've seen the demos. Microsoft did a couple of demos 3 months ago, and what it does with Teams, with Outlook, like even just being able to, I had a Teams meeting, it'll automatically listen in on the audio and summarize it. Like you don't have to do anything. I'm not going to take notes anymore. I'm just going to, actually you don't even have to click record. It'll listen in on the audio and summarize it, say who said what, and you can ask, like did somebody 3 days ago, did somebody say X in the meeting? Who said X in the meeting? Super slick. The REST APIs, if we're getting more into the technical stuff, I've been playing around with the REST API. So actually, if anyone that's set up an account, for regular ChatGPT, if you just go into the playground, you can get even more fine tuning and have an even longer memory. And you can use, just like with things like webhooks, you can create little REST calls into your API from, I don't know, just maybe I have like a Google shortcuts set up so that it just will tell me a funny joke, and all I have to do is call that API, and I think it costs like pennies on the dollar. This is kind of more advanced. And I call to action because I've been telling people this for the last 6 months. Install ChatGPT. It's free. Upgrade to the Plus version. It's such a giant difference, and I'll explain the differences. And just iterate on it, like just keep throwing stuff at it. Like I think that's kind of how I learned, where like I start easy, and it would be all right, I'm gonna have it try to do this. There's no way it's gonna do this, and then try and be like, oh wow, I did this. And then I throw more data at it, and then it will do it. It's massive. People ask me a lot about these two different. So ChatGPT 3.5 is the free one, which is you sign up, it's free. What are the big differences? The knowledge cutoff, huge difference if you're in coding, especially Angular. The analytical depth, you won't notice this on like a simple question of like, tell me who won the game. I don't know, tell me who won World War II or whatever. You won't notice this on the simple questions. But the coding and the creative write something and like connecting the dots, that's where I see the difference. Anyone that's using it for coding of like, help me write X, it's massively better. I won't say it's perfect, but it's massively better. Image creation, only ChatGPT 4 has it. File upload, only ChatGPT 4 has it. Real-time search, only ChatGPT, and that's a different $20 cost. The $20 a month. I was talking to somebody, and if they raise the price to $500 a month tomorrow, I'd still pay. And I'm not affiliated with OpenAI. I don't get commission for this. I know. But that's how much I use it. It is probably 40%. Questions?
Victor, you're a heavy user. I could see right away of this, and I love it. One of the challenges that I'm facing personally is that a lot of the work that I do, or we do, my team does, is interactive with people. And so, as we interact with people, we need to be able to, right on the spot, mentally, grab what is needed, connect with the person, and things like that. So from the content generation, and then connecting the dots, and then give you a summary of what this is about. Great. How that is helping you as a person, right on the spot, forget about the tool, forget about the iteration, right on the spot, to respond to the human interaction at the problem that you have at the moment.
I'll say prep number one. So I go into meetings ready. Like this is all the background. Tell me what to. I've asked it to script out conversations for me. Like it's still me. I'm telling it what to do, but it's like help me script out conversations. The real time, yeah. Okay, like if I'm in person, I'm not gonna.
Oh yeah, that's what.
How many of us here work remote inside of Teams all the time? I will even use. Like even sometimes just for fun, somebody sends me a Teams message, I'll go into ChatGPT and say like, craft a funny, witty response because I'm not that funny, but send it. It's like even the Teams stuff, like one-off message.
Yeah.
So I mean like 3-second, like 5-second feedback. The conversation. I've been in meetings where you're calling in remote, and I'm talking, but I'm typing like, all right, give me like elaborate on this point, dig into this a little bit more. I've done that. I think half of us here are remote, maybe. Yeah. It's not going to help.
It's not, and it's sort of the challenge. Now that we are trying to get people back to the office when there's more in-person interaction, those could come over to pick up and just write up a problem, and then get wait for a response, so I'm more prepared to that interaction. And then again, my question to you as a heavy user. Have you found that through this process of using ChatGPT has somehow enhanced your ability to quickly respond a situation without using the prompt of ChatGPT?
I would say it's made me smarter, yeah. Like it's made me like even like the research where it's like I don't have to like the other thing I use it for is like summarizing a book, right? Like if you needed a book on. Like my favorite DevOps book is Continuous Integration by Jez Humble, and I haven't read it in a while, and I had my notes, but it was like just summarize it for me. Like I could learn a lot quicker and get prepped a lot quicker. I think it would make me a lot better on the spot, as an effect of that.
So it has accelerated your learning process because information somehow.
The learning, like for learning.
Okay, for learning.
Actually, I don't think I stressed it enough. Like for learning, it's such a powerful tool because I don't even understand what people take courses. Like if I need to learn something, I go into ChatGPT and I tell it exactly how I learn and I drill into the issue. Even for kids, like I've used it to like explain X to an 8-year-old, and it's. Like for learning in general, I don't think, well, I think I did say the research, but for learning anything, I had a BA start that recently that didn't know any DevOps, and I could have pointed into books, but I was like, no, like here are the prompts to use, and then not even just use these prompts, but just ask it what format you want it in and how you learn and follow up. But even like learning in general is huge. I think even that, like, this is gonna have massive changes on the like the learning industry.
Last question. Interpersonal skill learning. Has that changed your interpersonal skill?
Yeah, I've used it, like I've used this for difficult conversations. You know, we have these, right? Like I have a client, I have an employee that's underperforming. I gotta have a difficult conversation with them. Here's the context. Here's the background. Here's what's happening. Script out the conversation with me. It's not doing the work for me. It's like, it's my coach. Like I treat it as my coach. Tell me exactly what to say. And then I can't stress enough that like it sounds like it's doing the work for me. It's still a lot of prompting. I just spent like half my day in ChatGPT. I'm still doing the work. I still created this deck. It's just massively accelerated. Like I was looking at the decks I was creating a year ago. It's like, oh, this is.
And the only thing that I'm having difficult time to digest is that how does that make me better person in order to interact with my team directly without having to wait for that prompt response. And then I need to be able to grow that skill right away, and be able to scan people left, right, center, and then look at face, body language, say, this is what the person's about.
I would use the analogy of like, how much is like a professional coach going to be able to help you? He's not going to be standing there beside you and be like, oh, this guy said X, see his body language, it's different. Like he's not going to be standing there with you, but nonetheless, like having that session, instead of once a week, it's literally like, hey, just before the meeting, like, okay, just give me some pointers. Like it's not just Agile, like the model that it has right, like everything. Like I've asked it, I've asked like even random stumbling blocks of, hey, this is my thoughts, like therapy, medicine, parenting, like anything that's open in the public domain, it's right. Right. Sorry, next question.
We've heard a lot about the bias that emerges from. Oh, thanks. We've heard a lot about the bias that emerges from the data that's been used to backstop the learning models and so forth behind these engines. Have you encountered any examples of that, or maybe just share your thoughts about that inherent bias that seems to be Achilles' heel of some of these technologies?
I don't know if bias is the right word, but the way that I've tried to describe its writing, it's extremely cliche. I used to be worried that it's so powerful it's going to replace my job, but then once I started learning the underpinnings, it's just behind the scenes. It's just statistical. It's just statistics of like it's a super advanced autocorrect, or the auto-create sentence. That's all it is, and it'll create, based on all the data that it's right, the most statistically probable answer. And if there's a bias of, for whatever reason, there's 900 documents that say the Earth is flat, and 10 documents that say that it's round. Like it doesn't care. There's no thinking. Actually, so this is the other big clip for me. Is like there's no thinking. There's no like reasoning from first principles. It's just whatever people say. And if that data set says, I don't know, 99% of the time there's this bias of people saying X, that's what statistically is going to be the correct answer. I do see it. I could tell that it's being fudged, where it's like they're trying to correct certain things, and I can tell that they hard code some things and never answer this or never answer that. It definitely has a bias. But it's the cliche. Whatever the data is, that's what it's going to say. So I don't know if I would even call that bias. It's whatever the data is. Like there's no bias. Yeah.
Right.
Just wanted to give a follow-up to Tom's question, because I do think it's important. Can you go back to the images that were generated earlier? And the one before, or the gravel versus program. Show of hands, who in this room feels that they are represented in the picture?
I thought about
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what it is. It's a statistical, like, you could say, like, make it
Yeah.
diverse, but if its image background is, like, whatever they uploaded was only.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think this is where there's a disconnect from a representation of society sometimes that one has to take intentional steps to overcome, which I think was a big part of it. Autonomy. So, anyway, that's my take on
Did
it.
the other one have it too?
Along the same one, actually. No, sorry, just gonna go back to the one. I don't know if the guys is screening, like I use this, but I guess the front, I will have to check.
There's a little bit more, I will say though, with the image generation, there's a little bit more, trial and error.
Yeah.
It will, there's some limitations, which it won't let you do copyrighted material, it won't let you do things if the painter has been dead. I think in this one, I asked, give people like beers and wine, and it was like, no, I can't do alcohol.
No way.
I can't do alcohol.
In your view, the way things are going and how fast new tools are being added to ChatGPT, I think there's going to be a GPT store where you can create your own apps using ChatGPT's engine, and then you can train them on data sets and have them be used by the public, I guess. And there's also companies like Zoom and other companies, everyone's integrating AI tools into their software. I guess where does this leave software companies who are maybe working on like CRM, CMS, knowledge management, where helping, they help companies and people manage their data and get insight from the data, but now you have an ability to drop a data set with ChatGPT and get insights from it. Where do you see the kind of market going and how chatbots like ChatGPT will affect maybe the software landscape out there?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, all these like CRM like data things are going to are already jumping on the AI bandwagon of like, I want to be able to query my data in a natural syntax, and everyone's going to have to do it or they're going to die out. But I do see like an entire shift of like, yeah, for human consumption, I don't want to use Salesforce's silly query language. I just want to ask what's in Salesforce like in a natural human way, and I'll have to do that. And everyone's going to be jumping on it or they're going to go out of business. Because I don't know if anyone's here who's done Salesforce queries, they're tedious.
Oh, yeah, just even the concept of in the call center, analyze the conversation and throw out knowledge articles as the conversation is happening. A lot of that thinking of, I would love to not be on hold for more than 10 seconds if possible. So.
So,
Just mic. Oh, thanks.
Thanks so much. We're an AI and microphone here. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Do you feel like so even talking about accelerating the call center, accelerating emails, do you think we're kind of still in this horseless carriage phase of AI? Right. So like these are all accelerators to the way we currently do things. The engine came out, instead of a car, they did a horseless carriage. Personal computers before that, word processors, so we can generate paper. And now we're using it to generate email as the way we do it. Where I've seen people like, it wrote my metrics build set up in Excel, instead of just asking it, here's the data set, what's my cost? Yeah. Right? Are we moving away from all of our current tools with the way that things are going?
Yes, there's going to be a massive shift. I don't know if anyone's seen some of the Google Android demos of like are fully integrated, and like Teams, like Microsoft demos of email fully integrated. Like in a year, I feel like it's where smartphones were at the beginning, where they just came out. I remember when the iPhone came out in Steve Jobs' presentation, and like the mainstream wasn't doing it, but once it starts getting rolled out into mainstream, even the demos that I saw was Android, it was like message, get a text message, and not like what it does now, where it's kind of bad. Like thumbs up, and good job, but full conversations, and then I won't be trusting like an email from anyone, because everyone's just gonna be using bots to email.
Yeah, like, so
Yeah.
you generate that nicely worded email, and then the recipient's like, check whether they're really sick, whether they tell me that, and then craft a good response and try to go back and forth in some way.
And the point of your conversation is,
You're gonna be at a massive disadvantage if you're not using it, just like the internet or PC. Everyone's gonna be using it, but I will say from the conversation, I don't think it adds noise. It cuts through sophistry, like, it cuts through like bullshit. Like if you have an email, like I'm not a big person into like writing angry emails, and I hate sometimes having to like, you have a big email from a client and you're expected to respond in like an equally big way, but at the end of the day, there's just a little bit of content, like it cuts through the bullshit.
That's a user-dependent thing, right? Because, you know, if you look at things like why Google is so bad when it comes to all the SEO that's out there that's generating the responses, so that's why everyone writes the word Reddit at the end when they're searching for it, right? So you can see something. I think that the intent of the actors generating the prompts would have all sorts of results, whether it's cutting through or generating. That's right. It's going to go both ways.
Change. Like even I don't even understand like SEO, the concept of SEO, and blogs, and static content and writing content. You're never going to make the cost of writing content become so cheap. It's just going to flood the market. And even I feel like the next step is going to be video, where it's like, oh, create a YouTube video on this topic for me. Even audio's gotten. So I don't think within 2-3 years, like I don't know if anyone's used the audio feature on ChatGPT, listening and talking. But it's gotten so good where I can't tell like Siri. Like it sounds almost like a normal person. And I feel like we're really close because I know the new iPhones have the emulate my voice functionality. I think we're really close to like if somebody calls me, I won't be able to trust that it's them.
I just wanted to go a little bit further on the question that Martin was asking. So basically what he was talking about is, let's say he uses ChatGPT to write me an email. And I use ChatGPT, okay, so parse Martin's email, cut through all the bullshit, get to the point, craft me a response. And I do it and I send it back. Now Martin does the same thing. So he uses ChatGPT to process my ChatGPT generated response and crafts a response, sends it back to me. And then I go back and forth. My kind of question was, okay, and the point of this exchange is what exactly, right? So I guess what Martin was going after is that our goal is to have something else. There's something else out there. Why we want to have this conversation. And instead of basically automating or making our responses back and forth more efficient, we want to go to that problem. The retrospective point of view is ideally you don't want to have this rather than picking up one example, generate me a list of creative retrospective games. Those games are supposedly intended so that people can brainstorm some sort of problem and solve it in a retrospective. What we usually see, they play one game in one retrospective, and the next sprint they play a different game, and sprint after that they play a different game, and sprint 57 they play a seventh game, and the problem is solved. And so what we would rather have AI do for us is not to generate a list of 57 retrospective games, but solve the problem already before we have the next sprint. Before we start the following Monday next morning, the Friday after the Friday retrospective. So like short circuit all the way to the problem solution, rather than give us 50 ways of basically automating a retrospective, making a retrospective more efficient that we shouldn't be having in the first place. How do you see So I feel that we could get there with AI. So basically, do something much more than just being 80% or 80% more effective, 100% more effective with the ways that we do now. But basically completely bypass the problem that we're trying to solve this. How do you see this? How do you see this beyond the immediate?
Because there's two questions. So number one, I'll say for the texting, I don't worry about the texting becoming automated. So when I use it for texting, or emails or whatever, I don't just say auto reply, and then auto reply. Like I ask it, like summarize, here's my key point, and then send. Like it cuts out the BS. And like what if anything, it's made me learn how like tedious formal emails are to clients, where you gotta double check everything, and it's gotta be proper, it's gonna sound correct, as opposed to I just have a point. Just say point X in a nice way where I don't go off a tangent. Use fancy words, use synergies, like it just focuses on the message. Very good was using ChatGPT. And I know a lot of people are nowadays. So to that answer, like I wouldn't say it's automating, it's cutting through.
No, I mean, let's say Martin and I challenge, right? So let's say, so I wrote 5 messages back. We messages by cutting messages, by cutting through the BS, and let's say we were 3 times as efficient. What I'm talking about is not to have none of these 10 messages, because all those 10 messages are basically waste, and we don't want to make them more efficient. 40% more efficient, 40% more efficient. We don't want to have it at all. We don't want to have it at all, like infinitely more efficient. Because we are at that problem already, and we solved it. That was the reason by having this exchange in the first place. The same thing with retrospectives. We don't want 10x more effective retrospectives. To have 50 retrospectives, 10 times more effective. We want to solve the problem, not have them at all.
That problem exists even pre-AI.
So we're trying to solve the
So if we
That's not what
Sometimes when I'm at a client, and they say, we don't need retrospectives, 100% I know they need retrospectives.
So let's think about what a retrospective is, right? So Agile meetup, right? Yeah. Agile built in, right? The better, the more frequent, the more real time, the more agile we are, right? So what Alexi's getting at is, how do we accelerate feedback loops? Because there is a form of feedback loop called retrospective, where we learn about things maybe 3 months later, and maybe we can have 5 of those a day, right? And not that that's a good idea necessarily, but that's an example of accelerating feedback loops. So kind of the thinking that I'm getting at is this going to position us in a place where those feedback loops, we call them PDCAs, we can call them UDAs, we can call them retrospectives, whatever we want to call them, but are we now going to be going in a place where those feedback loops are going to be significantly accelerated? Right, because the email back and forth feedback loop, that's okay, could be better. The retrospective feedback loop, it's okay, could be better. Where are we going with those things, right? Could you see us positioning in a way where Agile is more agile as a result of all this exploration?
That's actually it's actually a nice segue into my next talks, because first of all, I'll say that my next talk is on retrospective. First of all, I'll say anytime I've heard somebody say we don't need a retrospective, we need a retrospective.
What I'm saying is that
Because they don't have AI.
here's the real observations. Like in a lot of organizations, after retrospective, and nothing changes.
That is why I'm going to do a retrospective. And on top of that, I'll say 90% of retrospectives are a waste of time, because what happens is it's a whole bunch of psychological things, so lack of psychological safety, lack of like Dunning-Kruger effect, imposter syndrome. Retrospectives do a horrible job of talking about the important and consequential items. People like talk about like, oh, here's a sticky, we got new people and we got snacks and I don't like this technology, but nobody talks about the important issues, and I'll say that that's an issue with retrospectives in general. I will say where ChatGPT has helped me with retrospectives, not with retrospectives or in general, where you could ask it, what was the thing I had to ask me about? I was wasting a lot of time with the client of should we use Datadog or Splunk? If you give it the context, you could use it as a deal breaker. This is what we're going to do, and you can have it action. Like, here are my problems. Tell us the next steps. I don't want to waste time. Do it. It's in a way, it could run retrospective.
It's a different discussion. We have somebody here that would like to, I think it's adding a little bit of context. Some comments?
I think we're missing the point. So what we said was to this is a huge statistical. There's no knowledge on this. There's no knowledge. So this kind of expectation, this kind of unrealistic. We're not talking about similarity. We're talking about statistical knowledge. Helps you generate things. Helps you generate there. Even pretty soon into human rights. Like you will find out technical components answer questions that are generated ChatGPT by project managers or product managers. So I think and my response now is please send me whatever ChatGPT generated for you. I will pass it through and you my response to because you're missing so much of it. Because you're missing so much of it. Not invested your time trying to understand and finish the story. You haven't tried to understand circumstances of the project, and your voice in the team is the so it's just waste of time. It's just waste of time.
And by the way, this is great. This is great. This is great. Having that right is opinion. Having that right is opinion.
I've been using ChatGPT for 6 months now. I'm a 4.0 user. My big question, where this thought leadership is my point thought. Because these tools, like, after you start using them, they're so, like, I can create my workout routine, I can act as a coach, I'm using it for retrospective. Like, there's so many variations. So going forward, because all this data is coming from the Google domain. So if I write it, like, so I can't write a blog now. Like, especially if it's something a new idea. And I don't want to share that to the world and have it land on ChatGPT. So where's the future of thought? Where's the future of thought? I could totally agree with you. I could totally agree with you. I wrote, like, I was drafting a blog and I put it through ChatGPT as just to see, and I was like, wow, awesome.
I would still do it for your own benefit, like I still write in my own benefit, but you're never, I mean, and I think it's honestly the last 10 years, like even before ChatGPT, the entire blogging industry, nobody blogs, it's all YouTube and TikTok. There's no money. I don't know why people still think you can make money out of blogs. You can't. I would still say there's a benefit to writing and consolidating your thoughts and supplementing it with ChatGPT, because I do find it, I have really good ideas, but ChatGPT like punches it up, like present this in a really good way, but still use the blogs. I mean, if it's anything, whether or not you use ChatGPT,
That's the big question, right? Because now we're seeing a commoditization of knowledge. We're seeing it on LinkedIn, where I don't know if you've seen posts on, please post your thoughts on strategy. That information is being used as it's going to develop used by LinkedIn to support future content. They're doing it with free.
I would argue that whatever you write is just an input from everything you write.
Yeah.
You really just described our entire lives.
Yeah.
We give away everything about ourselves to big tech companies, everything we do.
Didn't we build these tools to commoditize knowledge? Wasn't that the whole freaking point of the internet? It was like, I'd like to share everything humankind knows so that we don't have to just learn everything every 5 seconds. Like, this is what Tim Berners-Lee envisioned with the tagged web, right? Like, It's working great, isn't it? Like,
There are two implied limits to commoditization, right? One is value, so is it high value or low value, and the other is accessibility. I think accessibility was absolutely the goal, but lowering the level, like leveling down, I don't think it was.
No, I don't.
And this is what we have, right? This is what pretty much nobody signed up for, but that's what's happening.
To some extent. I mean,
I think it's the nature of the phase that we're at right now.
yeah.
It's new. We're trying to figure out how do we use this to advance and accelerate the development of human knowledge rather than devalue and lower the quality of it. I think we'll get there. It's just time.
Well, that goes back to Martin's point about being in the very early days. We're still in horseless carriage mode.
At the end of the day, there's no replacing expertise and experience, right, with these tools. This tool, it's just a tool to help polish what you already know. Like if you don't know to ask the question about something, it might give you some hints to ask, but you've still got to figure out whether the answers are valuable or useful to you or applicable in your situation. And you can go back and forth, but I do that with sort of friends I have, colleagues I have. There's not much, I mean, I'm going back and forth with a computer that may have some information and may not. Just like a friend I talk to might have a completely wrong perspective about something. I walk away going, no, this is definitely the product to buy or something, and then I buy the thing and go, I hate this thing, it's the wrong thing for me, right? Like, so that experience is, you're just pulling it again, right? So it's just a tool. I don't think we're devaluing. Yeah, I mean, how valuable are most blog posts anyway? That's basically what I'm saying.
All right, just for the sake of time.
Do you guys want to do, so I had ChatGPT, because I got asked to put together some exercises. And I was like, oh, okay, ChatGPT, entirely creative ChatGPT exercise. Because the way people learn with ChatGPT is actually doing it. That one, because you guys looked excited.
No, you know what? Between technology and interesting chat, you just got nowhere.
Here's the lesson.
I would have just
Sit
kind of
to get nothing
pasted,
done.
kind of pasted the first part
No,
of
we
ChatGPT.
actually, that's what we're trying to do.
I'm trying to copy. And
Copying and pasting that.
on my
and
iPhone,
having-
Okay, I did a screen cap.
Yeah, okay.
And I dropped it into Google Photos,
Yeah.
captured the text,
Yeah.
just fed that straight in. And again, like I did the user story one,
Yeah.
gave me 10 user stories.
Okay.
Right, Thomas,
Was
next
the
time we have
copy
to
paste not working?
Yeah, I think so, it was right.
On iPhone, it wasn't working.
It wasn't working. It didn't work at all, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm a good fence. That's the excuse.
What about
So you're saying you can get traditional intelligence.
Who wants to present here?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's that?
Who wants to present for this?
Code and paste works fine.
Tom looks excited.
It took me like less than a minute to screen cap a section of the PDF of one of the scenarios, the user story one, and then drop it into Google Photos and capture the text, and then just copy that and paste it into the ChatGPT that I just downloaded, and then generate it.
I will say that to shortcut that even more, if you have 4, I would just screenshot and upload image and say, upload image, solve my problem, done.
It cut across pages, so I wanted to take out the page number in the header because I thought that might throw it off.
Give ChatGPT some credit, it could do that for you.
Next group, this one. I saw you guys did some
Extremely
image
talented
generation.
person is sitting here.
No, we failed at the actual exercise. So we just forgot.
But it's creative, I left it open.
Right, so we tried to cut and paste, we couldn't figure out how to do that. So then we tried typing stuff in, but then we just, how did we land on goats, by the way?
So because there is a certain humorous meme, so we actually switched to let's generate some humorous content. And so as it turns out, actually the Agile movement had all sorts of humorous memes from years past, like Zomblat, for example, that's a famous one from 2012. And one of those memes was the GOAT user stories. So like a basic prompt would be, okay, can you generate me 10 humorous GOAT user stories? I think it was Lisa Crispin who actually built the GOAT user stories Lisa account, although I have no proof. It's just I feel that that was her thing, but I have no proof. Anyway, so, and that kind of theme took off, and so there's some really humorous content generated around the theme of goats
we
and
ended up
Agile.
with, the prompt
Yes.
was basically generating images of a bunch of professionals at an Agile meetup, but somehow goats are involved. They're trying to solve some sort of user story exercise, and it has to be in the style of Archie comics. And so we got this image of a bunch of goats at a meetup. And that's not even the best one. The next one here, these goats are working really hard at generating some user stories. These ones are half human, half goats. And then finally we got kind of a boardroom of goats doing very important stuff.
It has a very big potential. The creativity that happened here and the end result, an Archie like comic with retrospective, with current meetup, how it would look like, with the future meetup, how it will look like. The potential is endless.
Yeah, so we kind of stopped when the rain bell on creating a goat systems thinking meetup, and then imagining what it would turn into after 3 years.
Guys, don't switch job, please. Yes, your job right now into this one because you're not selling. Just kidding.
But I do think it is a good example because even for like presentations for decks, I know I didn't go. I tried a different approach with icons this time, but for like punchy slides, if you need to get a point across, I wouldn't even need a prompt. I would just ask ChatGPT, like, give me a punchy image that goes with the content that you know. And like it, I know my retrospective deck, that's what I did, but it's a huge differentiator. I used to use Google Images in like stock photography. Actually, that's another industry that's done is like stock photography. But it's so good. It's like, I just want this image. I want the 16:9 format. I want this color. I want it consistent. I want goats. Like, I don't know how many images on stock photography of goats and Archie you're going to get.
I think it's 0.
Well, they just created 4. You just created
But they can be creative.
Let's do the next group.
So we used a scenario of responding to an angry customer after a production outage. That was scenario number 3, and we asked it to incorporate like humor and fun. So the response which I got is no way I can actually send to the client because it said, I appreciate your bug observation and completely understand the unfunniness of your recent update. It seems our attempt at a bug feature didn't quite land as planned and as you liked. I assume you were not in the business of creating chaos, especially not the kind that disrupts your operations. So it was really
Too much on the humor.
It was
so
too
that
much.
how would I be like, okay, too funny, like too much. Totally
That's
down.
exactly
How
how we
would I
did.
do it?
And we said the email is very funny. Can you make it more professional but keep light humor? And then it just basically gave a standard template. Again, not what we would have wanted, but it was too professional, looked very much like AI generated.
There is some tweaking, you're right, because like sometimes it goes to extremes where I have to like, sometimes I'll say just a tad less funny, but there's some like back and forth. That's a pretty cool example. Next group, do you guys do anything?
Yeah, actually, we just gave them a scenario about. So we just used the kind of standard example that we want to give like 10 user stories. So we just wrote that okay, we want like 10 user stories, but they ChatGPT was like, you have to be a little bit more specific. Just tell me about the context or the customer base and blah blah things. Then I just wrote like one simple line to create a portal for investment for customer base between 25 to 45 age group. So it came up with like around like 10 user stories, but it's like a very high level. Like they start talking about how will I track that portfolio, what will I do, like how will I educate myself before investments and all that. So it looks like definitely with these stories you need some kind of human intervention. Like I cannot just go ahead with this.
Yeah, I think it's more context. I mean, I think it always needs human connection, but like as much context as possible. Like it does get, I'm actually surprised that I'd ask you, like give me more info.
So because I think the very first time I just wrote like very like a layman, like okay, just create 10 user stories, that's it. as per Agile. And then it's like, okay, but what exactly do you want? So if I would have given a scenario more specific, like I need like, okay, investment total for XYZ thing or what blah blah things, right? Then maybe it would have been more specific. But maybe like what I learned today is like garbage in, garbage out. If I would start giving like kind of, if I will talk to ChatGPT in a way like, okay, then just create something. So it's gonna create something. But if I'll be more specific, maybe I'll get some better response.
Yep, that's
what
actually
I
pretty
found.
cool learning lesson that, yeah, I do find like the more you give it, even if you don't know if it needs it, the more you give it. I mean, for user stories, what would I do? Create a user story, set of user stories for a CRUD application on a React.js stack with APIs to this, with this is the backend, this is what I need.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would just give it as much details.
Yeah. I guess it's just
It's still
like
work, it's just less of the,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I gotta break it up.
It's just like what I felt, it's just like when a product manager who understands the vision of the product, he or she is trying to give a business analyst an understanding that this is what I want. Now, can you write user stories in Jira for me? So basically, like ChatGPT is kind of like a business analyst who will write the stories, but that ChatGPT needs to talk to the product manager in a more detailed fashion to understand what's going on in his mind, what's the vision, what kind of code he wants, right? So that's what I felt. If I give ChatGPT a kind of an intelligent question, then I can expect an intelligent answer. But if I'm just trying to make random things, then it's like, okay, here it is, right? So,
Cool.
thank you.
Cool, thanks guys.
This is great, because that means that unless you actually have a product owner or product manager who knows what they're talking about and how to ask for it, our jobs as business analysts within an agile environment is going to be worth at least 20-25% more for the next 2 years.
People's jobs aren't going away unless you're in copywriting and stuff, translating, Stack Overflow. But for this type of work, like I think it's more of a, your job's not going away, but you need to use these tools. Like if, I don't know, if I was to go back and people like, go back 20 years and say, like would I hire somebody 20 years ago that doesn't want to use the internet? Right. Or PC 40 years ago.
I work for a bank. They still don't know how to use Google. Seriously.